So for people joining in now, after the live session has ended, this will not be a very long session. I just want to keep it very brief and very crisp and precise so that I don't end up wasting your time. I just want to give as much value as possible in this limited time. So if you're joining in late after the live session, I want you to watch it in 2x so that you save your time. But for the people who are watching it live, the advantage is that there will be this small Q&A session where I'll live take your questions and try to answer them. So if you have genuine concerns regarding the exam that is coming up in a few weeks, we will try to sort them out, as well as the NEETPG exam that is supposed to follow later. Okay, with that said, let's quickly dive in and understand what this session is for. The first thing I want to tell you off the bat that this session is not for cribbing and crying and feeling bad and sulking all day long. Yes, I admit it, the notification was extremely unfair. It is extremely unfair. I empathize with you. I understand how radical it was and how short notice it is. Nobody can be prepared for that. But there is no other option. Now, I will not try to discuss the other options of trying to postpone it or trying to fight it in the court of law. Nothing of that sort will be discussed. You can do that after the exam. We can all sit down together, plan, and if needed, do that after the exam. But right now, there is no turning the time back. We just need to move forward, and we cannot move forward unless we get out of the reverse mode. We are stuck in that reverse mode. We are trying to reverse the time and turn back the time and fight what has already happened. We can't do that. Jo ho gaya, so ho gaya. Our aim right now is to plan what we can do moving ahead. So let's not write in the comments or talk about ye kitna nainsafi or ye how wrong it is. I understand it is wrong, unfair, and the people who decided that should really reconsider doing something like this again in the future. They should not experiment with the futures of so many aspirants, particularly in these difficult circumstances. All right, I sympathize with you. I understand it's a bad thing, but there is nothing we can do right now. So let's move forward, get out of the reverse mode. Let's move forward. Next thing, how is this session divided? This session is basically divided into 4 parts. I will be first discussing the academic strategy of what we are going to do. So the first part of this session is the academic strategy, right? Academic strategy. That is what we are going to discuss. After that, we will discuss the non-academic strategy. If there are any concerns that are non-academic, we'll discuss that. After that, I will take your question and answers. I'll try to answer them as much as possible in the limited time that we have. And finally, I will leave my closing thoughts. All right. So these are the 4 headings under which we are going to plan our session. Okay. All right. So let's start with academic strategy. What is the academic strategy that we are going to talk about? The first thing I want to discuss is, and also one more thing, if you're someone who's just joined in and are expecting a strategy to start today as of right now, मतलब अभी तक सो रहे थे और आज decide करे पढ़ना है, तो this session is obviously not for you. This is for people who have been studying, have been preparing, and have probably lost track, while they were preparing, and probably lost track while they were preparing. But this session is definitely not for people who were sleeping all year long and आज notification आया है और आज से पढ़ना start कर रहे हैं, उनके लिए नहीं है. If you are that type, consider joining the study revolution and start. Right? Consider joining the study revolution on my Instagram handle and start. This is definitely not for you. This is for people who have been preparing but have been distracted last 1 महीने से 2 महीने से पढ़ाई नहीं हुई है, disturb हो गई है, उनके लिए. All right. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Now let's talk about the academic strategy part that I wanted to discuss first. 1 second ठहर जाइए. All right. So the academic strategy part. We are on the clock here. We don't have a lot of time. Academic strategy part. The AIIMS exam, the AIIMS board is conducting this exam, right? INICET. But this is an exam that has a consortium of centers, that is PGI, JIPMER and NEET all working together, and they will select the students from this one exam. So please understand that this is not your typical AIIMS exam that you used to have a few years ago. So यहाँ पे topics will be slightly diverse, will be coming from all the other institutions as well. Particularly keep in mind NIMHANS. So a few questions from neurosciences, psychiatry will definitely show up. So your neuroanatomy has has to be there. And a lot of questions, some of the questions can be coming from your PGI pattern questions also, not pattern in the sense I meant topics. So topics will be coming from previous PGI exams, previous NIMHANS exams, and previous JIPMER exams. Typical AIIMS topics will be there, a plethora of them will be there, a lot of typical AIIMS questions twisted around will be there, but also JIPMER style, PGI style, and NIMHANS style questions will be there. Now the question that the students usually ask me, sir, pata kaise lage, kahan se laye wo questions? I'll tell you where you can get those questions from also in a bit, don't worry about it. So previous year pattern of not only AIIMS you should be familiar with, but also PGI, JIPMER, and also NIMHANS. Yes, thank you for appreciating my lovely handwriting. I can understand how much you can fall in love with it. I know it's beautiful. A lot of my patients come back again and praise me for that, especially my pharmacist. He calls me and says, sir, क्या लिखा है आपने, इतना अच्छा लिखा है, right? So छोड़ दो उसको, अभी मेरी handwriting को छोड़ दो यार, ठीक है? So what I'm talking about is you should know the topics from these previous year or these institutes. The institutes, familiar topics from these institutes you should be familiar with. AIIMS, PGI, JIPMER, and NIMHANS. कैसे करेंगे? I'll tell you. Now, 20 to 30% of questions based on what we have seen in the previous INICET paper will be multiple wale questions, multiple correct wale. A and B is correct, A, B and C is correct, only B is correct, only D is correct. So a lot of time will be spent, juggling between the or reading the options. So ये 20 to 30% questions रहेंगे. Everything else will be the standard your single best answer type and a lot of image based questions. So nothing to worry about in that regard, right? Okay. So 20 to 30% will be, multiple selection wale questions, right? Multiple selection wale questions. Now, I will give you a very important checklist. Write this down or take a screenshot of my lovely handwriting later. The checklist of things that you should do right about now. First of all, previous year questions. Previous year questions of all the institutes that I'm talking about. AIIMS, PGI, JIPMER, and NIMHANS. Previous year questions पूरे करना है. कितने साल के? At least 2 to 3 years. Why is this important? Because these questions will give you an idea of the topic preference. They will give you an idea of the topic preference of these exams, right? So NIMHANS की जो topic preference है, if you are thorough with that, a few questions will come in INICET from that. PGI की topic preference जो है, you will pick up from this previous year questions. JIPMER की topic preference you will pick up from these question papers. AIIMS की topic preference everybody knows because there are a lot of AIIMS previous year questions that you can do. So go through these papers not only to get a practice of the questions, but also to familiarize yourself which topics are being tested so that you can quickly go back to your notes or your question bank and revise them before you go for the exam. That is the thing that will give you the advantage over the people who have been slogging and studying everything for so long, right? Now is the time to become smarter. किस पे एनर्जी स्पेंड करना है, इस पे एनर्जी स्पेंड करना है. ये चेकलिस्ट का नंबर 1 है. And what are you going to revise? You're not going to directly revise the question. You're going to review the topic around that question. So topic revise करना है. Topic revise quickly. Next thing I want you to do is review the images. Review the images from radiology, from pathology, from ENT, from ophthalmology. Previous year के जितने सारे images आए ना, उनके permutations and combinations you have to be familiar with. So review the images because image-based questions or visual questions, have a large bulk of percentage in your INICET exam. Practice daily, 100 questions minimum. This is important because it will teach you the examiner empathy, which I talked about in my previous videos. It will allow you to think like an examiner. Examiner क्या मांगता है? What does he want you to know? So that you will learn with practicing questions. You will develop the exam skills that I've kept on talking about in my previous videos. It will give you the speed, it will give you the momentum to think logically and faster. So practice 100 questions daily. You can set it in the morning or before bedtime, whatever works for you. Just minimum do 100 questions every day. All right? ठीक है? Right. Now, for AIIMS, another important part of the checklist is procedures. Procedures, please do not miss procedures. कैसे procedures हैं? Foley's catheterization है, central line positioning है, intubation, endotracheal intubation, tracheostomy, all these basic procedures that you see in the ward or in the minor OTs, you should be familiar with it. You should know the steps. पहले क्या करते हैं, फिर नेक्स्ट क्या करते हैं, एंड एंड में क्या करते हैं. You should be familiar with the steps. A typical procedure that I expect in an exam is intubation. A lot of people are affected by COVID, so a lot of intubations being done. So intubations के साथ साथ you should know the position of the patient while intubating. Remember the drugs of intubation. The drugs that you use in intubation. Another thing for AIIMS is specific, again, since we are in the COVID era, try to read all the pneumonias, the treatments of pneumonias, and how do you pick them up radiologically, pathologically, and clinically. उसके बारे में पढ़ लो. COVID, yes, 2021 में एग्जाम है तो कोविड तो आएगा ही. In COVID, what should you know apart from everything you already know? Be familiar with the long-term complications. Long-term complications. I was chatting with an AIIMS resident, and he said that this is probably something that can be asked. Nobody is making any assumptions here, no speculation, but important है, discussion है, rounds में discussion चल रहा है. So this is probably something that they can ask. Long-term complications of COVID, all the various vaccines of COVID. You should know what are the various vaccines that are available, how are they produced, and what are their documented adverse effects, everything, the dosage and all those things you should know. Also, latest AIIMS COVID protocols. You should definitely know the latest AIIMS protocols. What are the drugs that they are using? So drugs padna hai. Dosage. Don't forget the dosage. Remember the drugs. Remember the dosage. Adverse reactions of those drugs. This mechanism of action. Pharmacokinetics. Pharmacodynamics. Everything. So pharmacologically, you should be sound when it comes to COVID management. Everything you should know. And also, the latest fab, mucormycosis. So mucormycosis, everything you should know for microbiology, pharmacology, again the drugs, the dosage, the adverse reaction, mechanism of action, pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, all those things about mucormycosis also, right? Now, updates. How can there be AIIMS exam without any updates? So where will you get these updates or recent updates from? There is a Marrow QBank updates newsletter, right? If you put these words on Google search, you will find it. Go through it. Whatever you want to pick up, बाकी छोड़ दो, right? So Marrow QBank updates newsletter रहता है. And finally, the last thing in the checklist is a mock, right? An INICET based mock will be announced soon on Marrow platform, and I'm sure all other platforms will do it. So just pick one and do it before you go for the exam. Minimum one. I would prefer to do two, but अगर एक होता है and you're probably very fragile and you're emotionally labile, अगर डर लगता है तो ठीक है, एक तो कर लो, just to get an idea of how the exam will be like. ठीक है. So that is the academic strategy, and that is a checklist I wanted to talk about. I will take your questions in a bit. थोड़ा सा gap दे दो. I'll take care of it. ठीक है. So these are the checklist things that I talked about. Okay. Now, target questions in the exam. Again, if I'm not wrong, and if nothing has changed overnight, if you're appearing for INICET exam, we know that the correct question will give you +1 and the wrong question will give you -3 negative marking. ये तो standard है. I'm sure and I hope it has not changed since the last INICET. Now, a lot of questions students ask me कि sir कितने mark करना है and how many we should attempt. Ideally, you should mark at least 170 to 180. That should be your target, because if it's anything less than that, it's very difficult to be in the cutoff, considering how the competition has stiffened, right? So these are all the academic things that I wanted to talk about. If you're studying, if you're already in momentum, this is the time you can log off this video. Just hit the like button and log off, and we can see it later after your, whenever you're free or bored. Now, coming to the non-academic strategy discussions. I will take your questions after this. Just hold on, right? So non-academic strategy discussions. So these non-academic strategy discussions were basically the questions the student asked me, which were directly not exam related, paper related, but definitely exam and situation related. So let me just cover what it is so that it is easy for all of us to follow. Okay. So non-academic strategy, right? Non-academic strategy. क्या करना है यहाँ पे? What are we going to discuss here? So why is INICET important for NEETPG aspirants? This is important because a lot of students were telling me कि sir we have not focused on INICET. We were focusing on NEETPG. And I've run a poll on my Twitter as well as Instagram and my Telegram group, and everyone said the same thing. Ki we are focusing on NEETPG but not INICET. What should we do? See, even though you're focused for NEETPG, even though INICET rank or result may not influence your preparation, but it is an essential part of your preparation, right? It is the most important exam that you'll be appearing for before NEETPG. It is a real exam scenario. You write as many mocks as you possibly want to on all the various platforms that are available. You will really not get the exam essence. You will not understand where you stand. You will not have that pressure. You will not have that those mistakes that you make under pressure will not be simulated in any other mock. So I personally feel INICET exam is that exam that will simulate the reality for you. So if I were you, and you should know that by now I understand exactly how you feel and I can understand what you think, so trust me on this, attempt INICET as if it's your real exam and give it your best. So it will teach you so many things. It will teach you the mistakes that you're likely to make. It will teach you things that you forget in the exam. It will teach you the things that you will do, silly mistakes you make under pressure. It will make you aware of your ignorance, right? And that is what is very valuable to learn from and take it to your NEETPG preparation. Before we go for a major exam, the night before the exam, I talked about this in my previous video as well. The night before the exam, you think about all the important list of topics, the important things that you've forgotten, the list of regrets I talked about, right? The list of regrets, right? That is what you will pick up if you go for NEETPG with your sincere effort, with your honest effort. Put your heart into it and go for that exam like it's your best shot. And you will learn so much from it. You will learn so much from it. Okay? What will you learn from it? You will learn the exam skills, the mistakes you make, the errors you do when you're under pressure. So those things you will understand and you will be prepared to avoid them when it comes for a NEETPG. Now, another group of students have asked me, sir, हमने कुछ पढ़ा ही नहीं है, क्या करना है? I mean, how can we go for an exam which we have not prepared for? And the answer for that question is here. How many exams have you written in your life which you honestly told yourself, I'm extremely prepared for this, I will go and मुझे first rank आनी है, right? I will get the first rank in this exam. None. The answer is none. We were never prepared for any exam. We will never be 100% prepared for any exam we write in our lives, right? Never possible. Today, this day also, if you ask me to write 100 question mock, इसे मैरो ले लो या कोई भी प्लेटफॉर्म में लेके ऑर्थोपेडिक्स की क्वेश्चन है सर, आप ऑर्थो पढ़ाते हो इतने अच्छे से, आप ही एक मॉक ले लो ऑर्थो का, आई विल टेल यू, गारंटी यू, आई विल नॉट गेट 100 out of 100. It is impossible. I am a human being. There are things that will go wrong. I will make silly mistakes. There are errors that I will make, but I will learn from them. And I will learn from them. So first of all, stop thinking that you're not prepared. It doesn't matter. Jitna bhi aata hai, go to the exam with that amount of preparation. But if you want to cover a few subjects, keeping this exam as an end point, target, as a pivot for your momentum or for your motivation is very important. 16 June को target बनाओ और जितना बाकी है जल्दी से quickly try to finish them off as much as possible. Short subjects are must, and I'll tell you why they are important in the exam, right? So if you have a weak subject and you are not getting the energy to finish it, 16 June का target बनाओ और वो finish weak subject को finish कर लो. How where to read from? You don't have time to watch videos, don't do all of that. If a subject is weak and you don't have time to do anything, go back to your notes, quickly pick up a subject-wise test. Subject-wise test कर लो, 100 questions, quickly finish it off, and if time permits, go to the question bank. And if further time permits, go to your notes. Otherwise, subject-wise test of that weak subject and the question bank of that weak subject is more than enough. ठीक है? One second. Non-academic strategy, यही हो गया? Right. A few other non-academic strategy questions were, will the exam get postponed further? Unlikely. I don't think that is going to happen. They've already created the logistics. They have already put up everything. Unlikely that is going to happen. A few other things that students constantly kept asking me were, what about the center, sir? Some of us have already joined duties. Can we change our center? Some students have asked me about the vaccination status. Will they ask us about the vaccination status? Some of you have asked me about what if I am COVID positive right now, and will I be allowed to sit in the exam? So what are the questions here? 3 non-academic questions here. One is center. Will the center be changed? What about the vaccine status? Will they ask about the vaccine status? And the third query was, if I am COVID positive, will I be allowed to write the exam? As of right now, they have not said that you will not be allowed to write the exam if you're COVID positive, number one. And the notification has not asked for the vaccine status also. And they've not mentioned anything about the exam center being allowed to change. But since most of you have already joined jobs and are working, and now you're asked to move around, I know it's unfortunate, but that's the reality. This is what I suggest. All of you try to email the AIIMS body. Try to email them, spam them with a lot of email. They will come back to you, right? Unless they know that this is a genuine issue, they will not report to you. Write an email, ask for these questions, ask for specific answers. Tell them, sir, I'm COVID positive. What should I do? Am I allowed to write the exam? I do not have a vaccine certificate. Will I still be allowed to write the exam? I want to change the center. I have joined the government service or a private service here. I cannot travel. Will I be allowed to change the center? Send them emails, and hopefully they will respond. Another important thing is vaccine status. I don't think the exam will ask you, but if you have to travel, the transportation might ask you, particularly if you're going to take a flight. So that is something I want you to keep at the back of your mind. Okay. Now, can I take some questions? Do we have some time for questions yet? Now, I'm going to devote a good 5 to 10 minutes for questions. If you have genuine questions, please ask them here. No random stuff that we have already discussed. I want to keep this session very short and crisp. Please, sir, in southern parts of India, till COVID is reporting is high. Yes, I can understand that COVID reporting is high, but since INICET is not an exam that is written by all of the students, the percentage of students writing INICET exam is comparatively very, very less compared to NEETPG exam. I think this is what they have decided. So there is nothing we can do about it. Even if your cases are high, they are expecting you to write it. So let's just work around that. Sir, do Marrow conducting INICET mock? Yes, Marrow will be conducting INICET mock, and they will release the date very soon, so don't worry about it. Sir, I have not read anything since the last 1 month. What should I be doing right now? See, most of the students I know have not been reading with the same enthusiasm they were reading before the NEETPG exam. So their enthusiasm took a huge nosedive, it took a dip, and obviously it was not... they were not very disciplined and motivated, but this date should give you that punch, this push, that motivation that you lacked, and I am sure that it will propel you to put in the hours to study. But I would focus on a few very, very important subjects that I would like to tell you are important for AIIMS based on what I have seen in the history of AIIMS exam and INICET questions. Short subjects are exceptionally important. Short subjects are exceptionally important, so try to revise them as much as possible. Any emergency or trauma management, whether it is in surgery, whether it is in anesthesia, whether it is in ortho, whether it is in medicine, any emergency management or acute trauma management will be discussed or tested in your exam. Okay, so try to focus on those topics and while you're revising. In terms of all the 19 subjects, which subjects will I usually give preference to? I'll give preference to final year subjects. Okay, so all final year subjects, major and minor, will be my preference. That includes the short subjects as well. Okay. And particularly the previous year questions, like I've already discussed the topics around the previous year questions. Special emphasis for anesthesia, definitely. ENT now, since COVID and mucormycosis, and radiology. What I've noticed about radiology is that it gets heavily integrated with all the clinical subjects because radiology imaging is used in most of the clinical subjects. And to form the basis of any clinical question that they can possibly ask you, two very important subjects come to my mind. They are pharmacology and pathology. Okay, so I will not be very, very concerned with only anatomy direct wala physio direct wala biochemistry, but molecular biochemistry has a role which was tested in PGI. So wo dekh lo agar time mila to. But otherwise, these are the subjects I would heavily focus on. Final year subjects, short subjects, ENT, radiology, pharmacology, and pathology. Right? Anything else? Marocco Bank, is it self-sufficient? Is it self-sufficient? I don't think that's the right question. Are you self-sufficient? Yes, if you were asking, is it sufficient? Yes, it is more than enough for any exam that you're going to write an exam. I'm sure about it. Can we compromise on MCQs? Meaning you don't want to do 100 MCQs every day? No, you have to do questions. Yeah, otherwise how will you practice? That practice will only come if you do the questions. You cannot go to the exam without practicing MCQs. It's like going to the battle without even knowing how to use your weapons. Very important to practice MCQs. Very, very important to practice MCQs. NEETPG preponement. See, I told you I don't want to sit down here and speculate. It causes a lot of heartache to students and to myself also. INICET never promised that they will give you 30 days in advance. So whatever they do has to directly reflect on NEETPG, right? But I'll be very honest with you. This whole year has been so crazy that anything is likely to happen, right? And if we are not prepared, the only people who can blame, the only person we can blame is ourselves then. So might as well start preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. So hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Right? Just prepare for the best. I'm not saying कि NEETPG हो जाएगा अभी, prepone हो जाएगा. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm trying to tell you is that prepare करो अपने आप को. And that's why in my last video, I categorically told all of you to have your revision and preparation strategies for a month. What did I tell you? What did I tell you in my last video? I told you that whenever you're scheduling either to study or revise, have a schedule for 4 weeks only. Why did I tell you this 4 weeks? Because they have promised that they will tell you 30 days in advance or a month in advance. So I'm hoping they will live up to that promise and they will honor it and tell you a month in advance कि बेटा आज exam है 1 महीने बाद. Right? So if they give you that window, you will still have your own strategy working. So starting from today, if you're preparing for NEETPG, strategize for 4 weeks only. And in those 4 weeks, the last week should be left for revision and the 20th book that I have been talking about since so many years. Do that. Okay, वैसी strategy बनाओ. 1 month की strategy बनाओ. Follow it till the end. If there is no announcement in the middle, restart your strategy for another month and do the same thing, hoping that if they announce, you will have at least 1 month to prepare. Are you following what I'm trying to tell you? Right? So better be prepared. Okay, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. This year, we cannot predict anything. Anything can happen. You know, they can just put out a tweet saying कि exam है. तब क्या करोगे? Okay, just don't cut a sorry figure then. Be prepared, friends. Be prepared. Right? Anything else? Right? We are almost at the end of the session. Should we focus on INICET revision or study focusing on NEETPG? No, this is something I want you to understand. All of you listen. NEETPG लिखने वाले, INICET लिखने वाले, सब लिखने वाले important. एक बात सुन लो मेरी. INICET is an exceptionally important exam for the aspirants preparing for NEETPG, even if you don't care about AIIMS. What did I tell you? It's the experience that you will learn from this exam that will tell you where your flaws are, that you can remedy before going for the big exam that is NEETPG. तो ये exam को sincerely लिखो. ये 18 दिन, this 17 to 18 days, whatever you do, put your heart and soul into it, burn yourself out, just give it your best. Right? Anything can happen. There are so many seats now in under the INICET board कि seat मिल जाएगी. I have taken podcasts, I've done podcasts with students who were shocked that they got into AIIMS because they were not expecting it. They were supposed to go for NEETPG and rank आ गई and they've gotten single digit, double digit. Single digit तो कोई नहीं है, double digit and triple digit ranks आ गई है. So what I'm trying to tell you is that even if you're a NEETPG aspirant, give INICET your best shot. This is my sincere advice to all of you. Don't neglect it, don't ignore it, and don't go with the feeling कि आने ही नहीं वाला था. Because the moment you go with that motivation, lack of motivation, right, you will not perform. You will not perform. You're deceiving yourself. So prepare for it sincerely. Mark my words, it will change your life, right? Anything else? Anything else that we need to discuss? Yes, you should go all in for INICET. Previous year questions of PGI and JIPMER. Yes, there are a lot of resources out there where you can get the previous year questions for PGI, JIPMER. Just do the 2 or 3 years questions. There is no need to worry about the direct question and the correct answers. Just read or revise the topics around them. Okay? Okay. Anything else? Right. So my closing thoughts. Let's come to my closing thoughts. Right now, there are 2 things that you can do. Listen to me carefully. Suno. Ruk jao. Stop commenting. Listen to me. There are only two things you can do. One, get angry. Spam my inbox, cursing all the boards that are conducting this exam with such short notice. Cry a river. Badmouth everyone and everything. Curse your life. Curse your fate. Curse the pandemic. Do whatever you want to. Right? Nothing's going to change. Right? I feel bad for you. But I also feel bad that nothing can be changed. Nothing can be changed or will be changed. And all the rumors and the false hope people are building in Telegram or Instagram or Twitter that postpone karenge, hum ye karenge, hum PIL file karenge. That's not your battle. That's not your battle. That is the battle for people who are not optimistics. They will keep on fighting. There'll always be this divide between the group of students who want it postponed and who want it to be conducted. So I don't want you to be on the border of that fight. I want you to be optimistic. There's already so much chaos in life. Gather yourself, fill yourself with positivity and focus on moving forward. गाड़ी को रिवर्स गियर से निकालोगे तो ये आगे बढ़ेगी ना. गाड़ी रिवर्स गियर में ही अटकी आपकी, आप आगे कब पढ़ोगे? Right? So that is the first thing I want to tell you. Secondly, it's very difficult for me to, sit down here and tell you kuch nahi yaar, aasan hai, ho jayega, ye ho jayega, because I'm not that person. You know that. I can't do that. I know it's bad. I know it's difficult. I know it's a horrible decision. But kuch nahi kar sakte hum. This is not an ordinary year. This is not an ordinary year, right? Please understand that. This is not an ordinary year. These are not ordinary circumstances. We are in the middle of the worst thing our generation has seen. And these exams are also not your ordinary exams. These are your life-changing exams. So the results that come out of these exams are also not your ordinary results. Pappu pass ho gaya, Sharma ji ka beta pass ho gaya. These are not those kind of exams. These are exams and results that will etch your life, that will define your careers and lives for the next 40 to 50 years. So when these are not ordinary things, do you think they require ordinary efforts? Absolutely not. These extraordinary things require your extraordinary efforts. And the efforts that you're going to put in and are putting in are, again, no ordinary efforts. Believe me, if I recall how my life was when I was preparing for this exam, it was much, much better. We had certainty. We did not have all of these problems. And I can't even imagine how difficult it must be. I'm the person who panics, easily. And yes, I am a strong person now. But when I was young and I had hair, I was a person who would panic easily. But I'm so optimistic, looking at all of you. You have so much, you're so resilient. You're so strong. You're not breaking apart. I would have broken apart. You guys are so strong. I talk to you on my Telegram group and my Instagram and Twitter. You guys are so strong. You have everything pulled together. You're just surviving. You're so resilient. And that's what makes me happy and optimistic about all of you guys. So this one exam, this one result, this one setback, this one speed breaker is actually nothing. It's just a small battle. And I'm so proud to know all of you and communicate with you and be a part of your success and this journey. And I'm so optimistic that you will come out of this. And why do I know this? Because 1.5 saal se dekh raha hu. I'm looking at all of you since 1.5 years so closely. If you follow me on Instagram and be a part of my study revolution and you see how I interact with the students and I see they are so resilient and strong, and all of you are so strong and resilient. So remember, this is no ordinary year. This is no ordinary circumstances. This is no ordinary exam. This is no ordinary result. And the effort that you're putting in is no ordinary effort. But you guys are also not ordinary. You guys are extraordinary. And I'm so proud of all of you. So put in the effort, sit down, burn the midnight oil, and message me after the exam. Okay? All the best. I will see you on the other side. Bye-bye.